welcome back, everyone. And does anyone have any questions? Something came up over the break. You have something you need to ask before you feel comfortable to start again, or anything like that? Anybody?
Yes, you gave some explanation about how to recite the mantra. Could you review this?
Yeah, it was a little bit complicated, wasn't it?
No, yeah, anyway.
Well, maybe not very clear.
I like to listen again. I would say.
Okay, well, I'm just, oh, I twisted my glasses. I must have stepped on them. There, that's better. Oh, yeah. I'm just sharing some things that, I've had to say a lot of mantras in my life. And I don't know if these are, it's nothing that I read in a book or anything. It's just something that I found helped me. So I just thought I would share them with you. And if they help you, fine. If they don't, don't. So, I mean, the first thing is that I find, when I first started doing lots of mantras, that I didn't concentrate. The mantra sort of made my mind even be more agitated, so my mind was going everywhere. So then I started combining mantra recitation with my breathing meditation. And I noticed, I haven't listened to a lot of Mingyur Rinpoche's teachings, but I felt kind of, what's the word? I felt validated, because when he's talking about meditation on the nature of mind, he says you can use breath, you can use mind, you can also use mantra recitation. So we can use mantra recitation as a way to stabilize the idea of developing awareness. And because obviously, or shine, because obviously the mind has to have an object of concentration. And so in mantra, in deity yoga, the idea is that the concentration is on the self as being empty, manifesting as the deity. And so for me, it took me a long time to figure out what does that mean, And so I try to get into it, share with you a little bit when we do the nectars and rays pouring in, that if you can feel the deity with your whole body, not just like an idea, but what I found is when you do kind of a scanning, almost like Vipassana meditation over the whole body. I don't want to use that word Vipassana because then it gives you concepts, but when you use the breath, imagine that the body's hollow, because that's how deity yoga works. That's how Lama Yeshe taught it. We have this hollow, radiating green light body. And then the mantra is at the heart, and the mantra is going out to all sentient beings. Well, I just found that stabilizing that with my breathing helped a lot. So if I imagine myself with this hollow body that's breathing, which I stabilized beforehand, and then you add the mantra to it, it's kind of like if I was a rock and roll band, my breathing would be the bass and the drums, it's always there, do, 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 right? And then the melody is like the mantra, somebody singing, So, but you have to have both, at least I do, or else the melody will just take me off into endless, conversations about stuff. But if I use the breath to kind of anchor me in my body, and if I feel that my body is emptiness, being very spacious and made of light, then the mantra recitation just enhances the experience of the empty body radiating crystal light, which is divine pride and clear appearance. Does that make sense? So then, okay, that's one thing, and then as you recite the mantra, maybe that doesn't work for you, but something else that you can do simultaneously is, and this is in the teachings, that you can do analytical meditation while reciting the mantra. So you could actually do like Lam Rim meditation while you're reciting the mantra. So for instance, you can, I mean, what we're doing in this case is I'm using just the idea that we're, healing the world of the pandemic, So if we have that, we're reciting the mantra, and you keep that in your mind, just this thought. You don't have to say the thought, but you feel the thought that, I'm this light going out from my body is healing the world of the obstacles of the pandemic, So you can do that for a little while. And what I was explaining before is usually we can hold a concentrated thought for a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, so you're doing that. And then your mind shifts. So then you go back. You can either redo that again, the mind, sentient beings, or sometimes you can think about specific people. And that helps to keep the mind, because what all the lamas say is the most important thing when you're doing the mantra recitation is to keep your mind in the Dharma. So keep your mind either in the divine pride and clear appearance, which I mean by the breathing, or the light rays are going out in all directions, touching all sentient beings, relieving them of the pandemic, relieving them of all the obstacles to enlightenment. Then they become Taras, and then as you breathe in, they all come back and bless you, So that's another thing you can do. But the other thing, I mean, there's so much you can do. You can also, in another situation, say, go through the Lam Rim. You can think about death and impermanence, and think that the realization of death and impermanence, and talk to yourself a little bit about it. And then the light rays are going out, and they're bringing death and impermanence realizations to all sentient beings, right? Then your mind loses its concentration, so you shift to perfect human rebirth, So you can do like that sequentially, all through the Lam Rim in one session, or one session you can take, depending on how long your retreat is, you can take one session for each part of the Lam Rim, So that, because the reason I'm saying this is because most of us, myself included, aren't so good in the beginning of just, oh, here I am, the deity, everything's empty, my eyes completely, spacious, and there's, and I'm just meditating, sending lights out to all sentient beings. For a lot of us, that's not that easy to do. So I'm giving a lot of information, so you might want to listen again. So then you can vary it according to what will keep your mind settled at the moment. So, one day one method works, one day another method works. But the point is that as long as you're concentrating somewhat on the mantra and the self as the deity, that's good enough. And all these other techniques are ways to sort of keep you from spending your whole mantra recitation time, planning what you're cooking for dinner or going to sleep. So, and the other thing, one more thing is what I find, it's because, a lot of times you start to meditate and then the mind sort of starts to go dull, you're not really sleepy, but you're not really there. So that's another way that the breathing is important, because if you continue to stay aware of your breath, and you can, like, as if you're doing a yoga class, or if you ever done Reiki, like you're healing somebody with Reiki, if you can like bring it up, and especially up in the top of your head, just keep this energized. If you're dull, or if you're really agitated, you bring the energy down. Like Lama Yeshe said, you can actually recite the mantras at the navel chakra. So if your mind is really agitated, you might want to bring the whole visualization of the Tam and the Tara down to the navel, or even the root chakra. So I'm just giving you all these different variations of, this doesn't make so much difference. We're just here one day. But if we were here for 3 months, doing this, then you might want to consider all these different things. How's that?
Why the navel chakra?
Why? Just because it brings your energy down into the base of your body instead of the heart. And also, if at the point, if you were interested in doing Tummo practice at some time in the future, it's a preparation for that. Yeah. And Lama's the only teacher I ever heard say that, But he said that in relationship to Vajrasattva, but I think it could be another practice as well, So the idea is just sort of work with your own mind and don't be afraid to experiment with what works for you. And the other thing I want to tell you too is that a lot of people think when they're meditating, they just can't move. You have to hold your spine like you're sitting up, like you're a soldier at attention, That's not true. You want to keep your spine up, but you also can you can move, within that. Because the more you hold yourself rigid, the harder it is for you to concentrate. So there is a middle path between, meditating like this and being too tight, It's that middle path thing. Again, like they talk about the guitar string, not too tight, not too loose. So it's that way with your body, but it's also that way with your mind. And also sometimes when you're doing the mantra, if your mind really wants to just travel, sometimes you just have to let it go because you're tired, So maybe it's better to just like relax and breathe for a while. You don't have to continue the whole, like if we do mantra recitation for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, if after 10 minutes you're tired, just relax for a little while. Look around the room, take some deep breaths and get back to it. Because if you just keep pushing yourself, you end up not ever having a good time and then you don't want to do it, So it's like everyone has to be their own best judge of your body and mind. However, the more you can supplicate or long, devotion is really the idea that I really want to get this, And so the more you can, if you are interested in these practices and getting the bliss and the emptiness, the more when we do the request, please, I want to do this, the more you can really feel that from your heart, then it seems like the more you get some kind of guidance. If you just relax and listen to your instincts, you'll hear, you'll be guided. If you can learn to get your ego out of the way a little bit and just listen while you're saying the mantra. So if you just kind of listen and breathe, and then just as much as you can, just keep the light rays going out and coming back, without making it happen. You don't want to, like, Lama used to use the word squeezing, you don't want to squeeze it, but you don't want to space out. So you have to find this middle path, and nobody can teach you that. It comes from experience. You just have to work with it. I remember a long time ago, I thought meditation, it's like an art form, you're an artist, but you don't have paints and painting and paint. You can't see what you're doing, or you don't have a pot, or you can't see the pot you're making, or you can't hear the music you're making. So it's a much more difficult art form because you have to just kind of feel it and intuitively move with it, because it's a bit like that, you have to, a painter can see when they've like made a mistake, but a meditator, it's like we can't figure out we made a mistake until we just have a case of lung, which means our minds are really agitated. So the best rule of thumb, the best guideline is to just err on the side of being too loose rather than being too tight, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, that's a lot.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get started. And yeah. Okay. Oh, one more question. How many times do we want to recite the 21 praises? Do you want to just recite them once or 2 times, or does anybody care?
We trust you, Paula. You also know how long the whole sadhana will take, so just decide for us.
Yeah, okay, because I mean, I don't know if you enjoy doing it, or I think we'll just do it once, and if we have more time, we'll go back and maybe do a few more, or maybe concentrate on the one to stop the contagious diseases. There's one that's just for that, you know. Okay, well, that's good. Let's get started then. So maybe we'll just read the quote from Shantideva, and then we'll stop and do our
I'm sorry to cut you, Paula. Can you switch to the English channel so that you can hear
sorry.
Nadia, because she was trying to ask you something.
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. You have to remind me. I'm quite stupid about this stuff. Yeah. That's it.
Oh, I see. So you mean at the end of the translation, you don't have the 20, but you don't have them. No, I see. It's not translated. Yeah. And I don't have it either. That's the only one. I didn't realize it was not translated. Okay.
I have it. I can put it in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think everyone just read what they have, and then I'll just watch and lip stop to see when you're finished, because I don't know when you'll be finished. Or maybe you tell me, Nadia, when you're finished. Yeah. The 21 Tara praises is a real favorite of Tibetans. They all do it. And the nuns do it, and the monks do it, and everybody does it, and they do it really fast, and yeah. At the center in Bern, Switzerland, they have statues of all the 21 Taras. It's really nice. Okay, so let's set our motivation for our afternoon. Recognizing the situation that we have in terms of the 3 types of suffering. We're all aware of the suffering when people are mentally and physically ill or oppressed by other people, or in bad relationships, these kinds of suffering. We all know that suffering. But then the Buddha also talked about the suffering of change, and which means that most of the happiness that we have is actually the suffering of change. Because if you think about things that make you happy, if you were to do it all the time, it wouldn't make you happy. Like, I think Lama Zopa uses the example of eating ice cream. You know, if you ate ice cream constantly, it would become suffering. If you went swimming at the beach all the time, it would become suffering. If you were to make love with your boyfriend all the time, it would become suffering. If you were to eat delicious food, you'd get fat and throw up and be suffering. So Buddha didn't paint a very happy view of the world. And unfortunately, if we really think about what Buddha taught, we can't dispute it. And we're constantly, especially us in the developed world, these Europe and America and Canada and Australia, these places, Singapore, Hong Kong, where we are wealthy enough that we can constantly monitor our suffering of change. So it seems like we're happy, you know? And I think what's happened with the pandemic is people haven't been able to do that. And so now they're you know, they're not happy because, I mean, just in the last 100 years or even since World War II, you know, we have these lives where we can monitor our suffering of change. So it feels like we're happy most of the time, unless we suffer from depression or cancer or something, which is suffering of suffering. So that's suffering of change. But then Buddha said there's even a more deeper suffering, which is he called the all-pervasive suffering, which is really what samsara is. And that, in Lama Zopa Rinpoche's terms, he says it's having 5 contaminated aggregates controlled by delusion and karma. That is just being a human being, or being an animal, or any being in samsara. So it just means we have a mind and a body that's we have absolutely no control over what we experience. Like me, like we were talking earlier about, you know, now I'm living in Shetland, you know, before I was living somewhere else. You know, relationships come and go, sickness comes and goes. We don't have any control, you know, about the causes and conditions that make us happy. We have a little bit, but not that much. And moment by moment by moment, if this is what meditation does, when you slow down, you notice there's this kind of agitated sense of just being, you know, and we get glimpses of change, you know, but most of the time, you know, our mind is going between one afflictive emotion to the other, except when we're asleep, you know. So Buddha talked about that, and that I think if you wanted to put Buddhism in a summary in some ways, I think it's to understand that we don't have any control over the karmas that will ripen in our lives. But what meditation particularly does within the context of Buddhist meditation is it gives us a capacity to respond to that suffering with choice. So over time, when we meditate and we begin to see that little gap between the thoughts, and the more we can rest in that gap, and the more we can become one with our breathing and become aware of thoughts coming in our mind. So then when these karmas ripen, for a normal animal or spirit or human being, we immediately, bam, you know, there's a reaction to it. Something comes, I get angry. Something comes, I get jealous. Something comes, I get worried. Something comes, you know, I have no space in my mind. But what meditation does is it creates a space in your mind so that when something comes, we have a chance to take a breath, go, and maybe we can respond in a more enlightened way. And with more practice, we can meditate on emptiness, and then we eventually will burn up all those karmas, and we can become enlightened, and we can help other people. So that's a roundabout way of a motivation of why we're doing this, and why Tara in particular is because tantric practice, we are told, is a much quicker way to develop that capacity to do that, by bringing the future into the present, by pretending that we're already Tara. It creates many, many, many more karmic seeds than just sitting and watching your breath. It's a more powerful method than others. And also, there's so many blessings that come because of all the people in the past who practiced Tara. So if you really think about the suffering of suffering, this all-pervasive, this mind and body overwhelmed by delusions and karma, you can't dispute it. It's what it is. And so our motivation is to change that, to get out of that stream, to swim up the stream instead of down the stream, and to create the cause for enlightenment. And then on top of that, the great Mahayana motivation is, I'm not doing this just for myself. Because if I look around, all my friends and family, even my dogs and cats, even the ants that are going through the house and the snails that eat my plants, they're all like that. And so it's important to just sit and think about these things, not just run through our practices, but really sit and think about it and think, wow, is it really possible to overcome this? Can I do it? And I think the most important thing about the gurus, well, there's many good things about them, but one of the good things is that they inspire us. When we've met somebody like Lama Yeshe, like Lama Zopa, like Kyabje Rinpoche, and your Yeshe, different beings, you know, Kaudrula. It's like we can see that they're different than we are. That they might not be 100% enlightened, but boy, they just radiate that sense of peace and that openness, and the fact that their minds aren't overwhelmed by delusion and karma. And so that inspires us, and they tell us, well, this is the method. So if we're truly inspired and we understand it can take a few lifetimes, it's not going to happen this lifetime. It might happen this lifetime, but that's pretty rare. And in the story of Tara, it took her many, 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 many lifetimes. But every life we have a chance to get closer. And so every life we can use, I mean, Lama Zopa uses the word as karma permits. I really like that, because not everyone has the karma. Everybody's karma is different. And so we have to use the karmic propensities that we have to create the cause for enlightenment. So it doesn't matter if we're a mother, if we're an engineer, if we're this, you know, everything we do, if we can do some practice every day, and most importantly, to learn about Mahayana motivation and dedication for enlightenment of all sentient beings, and slowly, 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 we can create the cause for enlightenment. And so doing stuff like this is, it's like, what's it like? It's like, you know, if you have a bank account and every week you put in $1 franc, but all of a sudden you can put 2,000 francs in. Well, then that's what happens when you do Tara practice. And you can feel it when you do a lot of Tara practice. You can feel the change in your mind. So that's our motivation why we're here. It's kind of a long one, but we have time. So let's just stop and think about bodhicitta and how wonderful it is that we could actually liberate ourselves from having being overwhelmed by delusion and karma, completely out of control. A good way to start is to feel gratitude. Being grateful to our parents. Even if they had difficulties, still we're here because of our parents. Our friends, our families, of course, our teachers. We're grateful that the sun comes up every day. I think you probably have really nice fruits and vegetables and flowers in France. You live in a wonderful, fertile country with strawberries and blueberries and dahlias and beautiful flowers. Beautiful city of Paris. Just feeling grateful for all the goodness that we have. And stabilizing our awareness in our body through breathing. This prayer of Shantideva is a really wonderful motivation. I don't know who put it in the front, but I think it's a great idea. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food, the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. And whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Especially this misery of this pandemic. For motivating this, these mantras we're saying and praises and all of this virtuous activity that if all the people in the world can have the vaccine, if they need it, which they probably do, and for the vaccines to be equitably distributed, and especially to countries right now that are really suffering, like Brazil and India, Nepal, the ones we don't hear about. All those people who are suffering from isolation, from grief. And also, I think we need to motivate and pray for all the leaders of the countries that they make the right decisions about how to manage the pandemic and how to come out of it and how to create a much more interactive world where we care about all the countries and are working to change the technologies that are causing the climate change. I especially like to dedicate for the greedy people to want to share. I mean, there's some people in this world that could feed whole countries, give vaccines to everyone, just if they spent part of their income. There's some very, very, very rich people on this planet. So I think they are almost more in need of compassion than the really suffering ones, because I can't imagine having that much money not wanting to help people. So let's pray that the greedy people or the rich people open up their hearts and are willing to share. So then in order to attain enlightenment, we have to step on the path. And the first step is taking refuge. We talked about that earlier. So we'll just read, first, I'll read the description of Tara in the space in front of us. We're just making this easy. We're just taking refuge in Tara. So in the space before me, on a lion throne, lotus, and a moon disk, sits Kadiravani Tara, inseparable from my root guru. And if you don't have a root guru, don't worry about it. Just visualize Tara. Above her is Venerable Atisha and the other lineage gurus. And she is surrounded by the 21 Taras and all the Buddhas, Idams, Bodhisattvas, heroes, realizers, and oath-bound protectors. So if you're an experienced student, you can see the whole Lama Chopa merit field, however you want to do it. Or just have faith that Tara is all of that. I think it's important to whatever makes you feel faith and devotion is what to use. You can imagine Tara's emerald green, and she's a manifestation of the omniscience, love, and compassion of all the Buddhas. She's in the nature of light. She's not solid or concrete, but light like a rainbow. Her left leg gathered in symbolizes her complete control over the winds. And her extended right leg indicates that she's ready to get up and help all living beings. Her left hand on her heart in the refuge mudra. She's granting refuge to all sentient beings. So it's easy, when we take refuge, we can see that coming out of her hands, coming out like that. Facing out, the palm and ring finger touching, and the other 3 fingers raised. Her right hand is in her right knee, showing the mudra bestowing sublime accomplishments. The palm out, the thumb and index finger touching, and the rest pointing down. It's facing out. And in each hand, she holds the stem of the Apollo flower. So I hope you have a picture you can visualize Tara. So she's in front of us, and we're just from our hearts reaching out, saying, please, I want to gain these realizations, and for this reason, I'm taking refuge in you. So we say, I and all sentient beings, as vast as space, from now until reaching the essence of supreme enlightenment, go for refuge to the glorious pure Lamas. Go for refuge to the perfectly enlightened victorious ones. Go for refuge to the pure Dharma. Go for refuge to the Arya Sangha. So our father's on our right and our mother's on our left. And all the sentient beings are around us. And we can just, as best as we can, meditate on feeling safe, protected. We can inhale in this protection and refuge. And when we exhale, we just relax and feel the mind and body pervaded with love and acceptance, without any judgment for who we are or who anyone else is. We can imagine white nectars and rays pouring in from Tara into us, filling us with inspiration and love. And go on. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I'm thinking about all the beings. And then we can imagine that yellow nectars and rays are pouring into us from Tara, giving us all the realizations we need to perfect the 6 perfections of the Mahayana path, particularly realizing emptiness. And then not forgetting all the sentient beings. We think, in order to benefit all my mother sentient beings, quickly and more quickly, I must achieve the precious state of perfect and complete Buddhahood. Therefore, I'm going to undertake the yoga of Venerable Arya Tara. So then the nectars and rays, we visualize still coming in from Tara, bringing us safety, love, relaxation. With the in-breath and with the out-breath, it goes out and touches all that love in our heart for all sentient beings. Even if we just pretend, it goes out and touches all the sentient beings. And we continue to do that while we think, may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that knows no suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of attachment and hatred for those held close and others distant. And then we do the 7-limb prayer. I prostrate reverently with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. I confess all my negative actions and downfalls collected from beginningless time. And I rejoice in the virtues of ordinary beings and Aryas. We can stop, and those of us who know Zopa Rinpoche, we rejoice. Rejoicing how wonderful it is, rejoicing in all the good deeds of all the past great Mahasiddhas, Tara herself, all the deeds of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and all the ordinary beings, mothers and fathers and good doctors and Dharma Center directors and people who grow flowers and who grow food and people who take care of babies, and people who make peace. How wonderful it is. our own merits, our own good qualities. Those of our friends, family, teachers. And we ask not only Tara, but all of our teachers to please remain at the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for transmigratory beings. I dedicate my own and others' virtues to the great enlightenment. And then we offer all the goodness of the universe in the form of Mount Meru. In fact, the whole universe. I think we'll just say it today, right now. The ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine as a Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. And we make the request, please bless my mind and the mind of all beings to be free from all the wrong views, to gain all the realizations, and to be free from all obstacles. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. And then we pay homage to Tara. We'll do the little homage and then the 21 praises. Devas and Titans bow down with their crowns at your lotus feet. I prostrate to the liberating mother who liberates from all misfortunes. So then we do the 21 praises in whatever language you want, Tibetan, English, Francais, Spanish. Om Jesun Ma, Pagma Dromala Chaksalo. Homage Tara, swift heroic, as thy lightning instantaneous, from open stamens of the Lord of 3 worlds, dear-born lotus. Homage she whose face combines 100 autumn moons at fullest, blazing with light rays resplendent, as 1,000-star collection. Homage golden blue and lotus, water-born and adorned, giving effort calm austerities. Patience, meditation, her sphere, homage crown of Tathagatas, actions triumph without limit. Read-eyed on by conquerors children, having reached every perfection. Homage filling with tutare, whom desire direction and space. Trembling with her feet the 7 worlds, able to draw forth all beings. Homage worshipped by the all Lord, Sakra Agni Brahma Marut, honored by the host of spirits. Corpses, yours, Gandharvas, Yakshas, homage with her tray and pay sounds, crusher of false magic diagrams, putting her feet left out right back, blazing up and raging fire blaze, homage to a very dreadful, destroyer of Mars champions. She with frowning lotus visage, who was slayer of all enemies, homage at her harder fingers, hard on her 3-jewel mudra, light rays masses all excited, all direction wheels adorn her. Homage she showed joyous radiant, crown emitting darlings of light, mirthful laughing with tutari, subjugating Mara's devas. Homage she able to summon all earth guardians in their train, shaking, frowning with her own sign, saving from every misfortune. Homage crowned adorned with crescent, lunar ornaments most shining, Amitabha in her hair knot, sending out much light eternal. Homage she mid wreath that blaze like eon ending fire abiding, righteous weapon choice around you, troops of enemies destroying. Homage she who smites the ground with her palm and with her foot beats it, scowling with the letter whom the 7 levels she does conquer. Homage happy, virtuous, peaceful, she who spheres peace nirvana, without having and so destroyer of the great evil. Homage she with choice around it, tearing false bodies asunder. Praise with human knowledge mantra, arrangement of the 10 letters, homage to a Westi letter, of the shape of syllable, whom by the stamping shakes the 3 worlds, Meru, Mandara, and India. Homage holding in her hand the hair mark moon of Deva leg form, with twice spoken Tara and Pei, totally dispelling poison. Homage she who guides in their kings, and that can arrest to honor. She whose joyful splendor dispels our runs, ragings, and conflicts. Homage, she whose two eyes bright with radiance of sun or full moon, with Vaisara and Tutare, she dispels severe contagion. Homage full of liberating, by the set of three natures, destroys hosts of spirits, yakshas, and transcourses superinture. These praises with the root mantra and prostration Sasar 21. Then we make the request. Arya Tara, great treasure of compassion, grant your blessings to increase all favorable conditions and to clear away every obstacle, that all migratory beings may swiftly enter the city of eternal joy. Venerable Arya Tara, great treasure of compassion, grant your blessings to increase all favorable conditions, to clear away every obstacle, that all migratory beings may swiftly enter the city of eternal joy. Venerable Arya Tara, great treasure of compassion, grant your blessing to increase all favorable conditions and to clear away every obstacle, that all migratory beings may swiftly enter the city of joy. So then we make our own personal requests. And then Tara, here's our request. Grants us her blessings, body, speech, and mind. So first, the white nectars and rays pour into my crown and fill my body with the purifying bliss and emptiness. Purifies all the mundane karmas of my body, all the karmic imprints caused by my harming other people's bodies and my own body. I receive the blessings of Arya Tara's holy body, and my body becomes oneness with Arya Tara's holy body. You just have to have faith and the intention that's happening. Then from the red the throat of Arya Tara, red nectars and rays pour into my throat, filling my subtle mind and wind with the purifying bliss and emptiness. Whatever you intuitively understand about emptiness, we just relax into that space, allowing the body to be full of red light. Sorry about that. I receive the blessings of Arya Tara's holy wind and speech in my body, in my speech. And my speech becomes one with Tara's, Arya Tara's holy speech. And then the blue nectars and rays from the home at Arya Tara's heart pour into my heart, filling my body and mind with the purifying bliss and emptiness, purifying all of our mundane concepts and wrong views, all of our emotional afflictions, and especially our ignorance. I receive the blessings of Arya Tara's holy mind, and my mind becomes one with Arya Tara's holy mind. And then from the three places, the Om and the Ah and the Hum, the white, red, and blue light rays come to my crown, throat, and heart, filling my body with all three colors, purifying any subtle stains of imprints of believing an inherent existence. The appearance comes, of things. It's not that things don't appear. It's just that as they appear, we also know that they're just the play of the pristine awareness of pristine mind, just the play of bliss and emptiness. So we're no longer captured by appearances, by emotions, by sounds. Every subtle imprint of inherent existence is purified. And then we can imagine that the Tara in the space above us dissolves into the subtle drop at her heart. And we can see this as a bright green crystal drop. It's not made of anything, it's made also of light. But it has all the power and grace and glory the body, speech, and mind of Aryatara, and it comes in this form to the crown of our head. And comes down to the central channel, through the crown, the throat, and the heart, and rests with the subtle mind at my heart. And I have faith that my mind and the mind of the Guru Aryatara's mind become oneness. And I experience great bliss and emptiness. So then, whatever you remember of that, we just allow the mind to completely relax and open up to this blessing. And moved by the mind of bodhicitta, we either take the time to arise as the Venerable Tara ourselves, or just imagine that Tara's at our heart. Mind of the union of bliss and emptiness, manifesting this light, green body, beautiful goddess. Who is only manifesting out of great love for sentient beings. Completely beyond ego grasping. And then again, moved by the winds of bodhicitta, there comes at the heart of Tara, the tongue, surrounded by the mantra, Tari Tari So, on the moon, on the lotus. And then again, remembering our bodhicitta, we imagine as we recite the mantra that light rays go out touching all the sentient beings, and they're all transforming into Aryatara. And the whole universe becomes Aryatara's pure land. So, like I said, we can, if you want to, while you recite the mantra, you just imagine as you breathe out, it's touching all sentient beings, they become Taras. And as you breathe in, all the blessings of Tara come back into you. Or however you want to do it. That's the simplest way. Om Tari Tu Tari Turi So, Om Tari Tu Tari Turi So. Dare tu re soha. 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 So one more time, the light rays go out from the mantra and the tongue, touching all the sentient beings. We imagine they all become Buddhas, Taras. So then we imagine we're just as far as we can feel space around us. It's just full of green Taras everywhere. And then these green Taras come and pour back into us like snowflakes melting on a lake, completely empowering us with the confidence to gain the realization, the ability to meditate on the nature of mind. And then not only that, not only the conventional nature of mind, but its ultimate nature, the I, the subject being completely empty. All phenomena completely empty. Just pure emptiness without reference points. Pervaded by love. And we just completely dissolve into our true nature. The ultimate nature of self and phenomena. Just letting go. And then instantaneously, we rise as Tara again, or else we have Tara in our hearts. And we take a moment of gratitude to be grateful to have met with this lineage that can teach us how to relax into this blissful, loving space where all appearances subside and all worries are set to rest and depression becomes a thing of the past. Even for just a few moments, it's a great blessing. We'll just do the short dedication because our time's up. Agmadroma, drove your name, drova chikyam malupa, dei sala kopasho. The merits of these virtuous actions may quickly attain the state of Aryatara and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. Jang Chub Sam Chog Rinpoche Marke Panam Ke Kyorching Ke Wanyam Pame Payam Gone Gondu Belvarsho. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. And so, sealing with emptiness and rejoicing, how wonderful it is. And dedicating for the end of the pandemic and the long lives of our gurus, and the flourishing of all the Dharma centers and all the people everywhere making the world a better place, all those organizations. So thank you again. And we'll see you in an hour, right? Is that correct? I think so.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so have a nice break. It's important to just relax in these breaks, please. So yeah, so we'll see you in a little bit. So au revoir. Ciao. Let's see what happens here.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Elizabeth. I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You all. Yeah. Nice to see you.